Men and women who experience child sexual abuse are 2 to 6 times more likely to become victims of adult sexual assault. Our next speaker reminds us of how vulnerable child sexual abuse victims are to becoming victimized again. Please give a round of applause for Shiloh.
On a breezy summer prairie day, I closed my eyes. I raised my forehead to the sky and greeted the sun with a smile. My 3-year-old self was solely occupied with dirt and grass when my play was interrupted by a neighbor and family friend. I had made a mess of my favorite tights. He said that I was dirty and needed to be cleaned up immediately or I would be in trouble. Against my guts, I followed him into his empty house. No sound, no one around. Still and straight, I stood as he peeled off my tights and carefully examined all and any of the places where I may have allowed the dirt to stray. Bathroom transitions into master bedroom. I am seated atop a lap with only my underwear to protect me. His hands make contact and I'm paralyzed, petrified. Every cell in my body screamed in objection, but I could produce no words. Forward, forehead, heavy, frown. Before he let me go, he retrieved a $1 bill from his wallet. Payment for being a good girl and for keeping our little secret. About 10 years later, I made friend of the river that ran through my hometown. I had been depressed and suicidal for years at this point, and when I was able to leave my house on my own, I threw myself into that river. Every time I challenged the current, I learned more and more about focus, discipline, goals, and limitations. Outside of the water, I was poor, ugly, stupid, dirty, androgynous, half-breed, Indian. But inside the water, I was fast, I was strong, I could hold my breath, I could swim from shore to shore and back, and I loved it. The river supported me, pushed me, nourished me. It spoke to the part of my soul that believed that I was destined for greatness. I was at the river with my family one day when this guy approached me. He was 19 and I knew him. He wasn't cool, but neither was I, so we became friendly. The day grew long and I still wanted to swim. So my family packed up and moved on. Before, he had kept his distance while we were swimming in the water, but now that we were alone in the river, his behavior changed. He started to chase, and then to grope. I thought he was being competitive, and I thought that it was all in good fun until his grip tightened, and his hands began to wander. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late to try to get away. He caught me, neck deep in the water, my toes just barely able to touch the ground. He pulled me to his body. Arms pinned at my sides, I could feel the burden of his strength every single time I tried to struggle. Strong and fast and in shape for my age wasn't gonna help me. The park was empty. No sound, no one around. I resisted to the point of exhaustion, but by then I was beyond panic. Reality was setting in and I was so scared. I didn't want whatever was gonna happen to happen in that river, not my river. Fearful for my life, I knew that I needed to survive. So I stopped fighting. And he responded to my passivity, loosened his grip, and escorted me out of the water into a park bathroom. He spoke to me like I was his girlfriend. He told me that he wanted us to make love in that bathroom shower. He told me that I would like it and to trust him. I asked him if I could use the bathroom first and alone. He stood outside of the door. I needed a moment to accept my situation. I knew I was trapped. I knew he was going to rape me. I just had to see if I could make sure that he wouldn't hurt me more in the process. I told myself that if he got what he wanted, he would let me go and it would be over. He entered and I imagined being home. I imagined my family and I thought of the boy that I had a crush on. And I thought how I would never be the same. My heart broke as my body responded naturally against my permission. Water from the shower washed the DNA away, but it wasn't over. Little Spoon, catatonic in his room, released just after dark, head down, drained. I made the slow, painful walk of shame. Home and in silence, I put myself to sleep. Less than a year later, on a summer night, I was happy. I was with friends. I was going to a party. I was supposed to be at a football game. Being the youngest, I was the last to enter the basement through the back door. There were couches and chairs and a bed. I knew everyone. For weeks before, my girlfriends had been talking about this guy who was there. They thought he was so dreamy. He was tall, 1.5 times my height. Good-looking and athletic, but he wasn't my type, and he had a girlfriend. When we started playing Truth or Dare, I was surprised when I was dared to kiss him. My girlfriends told me it would just be a kiss and that I could stop it whenever I wanted. I didn't want to seem scared. The sloppy kiss turned into kissings with cheers from what turned into an audience. I regretted my decision immediately, tried to pull away, and was overpowered. He was on top of me and I couldn't breathe. His fingers at my zipper, on my chest. I was trying to push him off and pull him out of my pants, but my hands were 2 sizes too small. Laughter echoing, applause. The whole room cheered on. Finally free and covered in sweat and spit, pants unzipped, I staggered out the door into the night. No sound, no one around. Humiliated and betrayed, I was alienated, slut-shamed, and to top it off, they persistently called me by my rapist name. There were countless other assaults, sexual and physical, that exponentially compounded the feeling of worthlessness that I carried around with me since the age of 3. Over the years, I developed symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and tried to cope with them until I could no longer go on without professional help. Every day was a living hell, and after a series of constant triggers, I found myself at a crossroads where I had to decide to continue living in constant fear, agony, and depression, a path that would ultimately end my life, or take a risk and see if I could work through my trauma. I knew going into this that it would be the hardest thing, the most rewarding thing, the scariest thing that I could ever do for myself. For a long time, I would cringe and roll my eyes when people would tell me that I was strong. I didn't feel strong. I failed to protect myself in so many situations, had abusive relationships. I was riddled with guilt and self-doubt and internalized those things as weaknesses. I didn't understand strength until I started connecting value with my self-worth. I dedicated myself to healing, dialectical behavioral therapy, one-on-one counseling, EMDR. First, I garnered the skills to de-escalate my stressful situations, and when I was ready, I tackled EMDR head-on. Every day was a leap of faith, but I kept going because I knew what the alternative was. And when the weight of my trauma got easier to manage, I started to understand. I began to see the signs of strength as I embraced my life and followed my bliss. And the more I did, the stronger I grew. I could now focus on finding my own greatness. I could focus on my dreams. Through this process, I was able to remember my preciousness and reconnect with my innocence. The healing has been tremendous, and it is with great pleasure and wholehearted happiness that I get to stand here and share these things with you. I close my eyes. I raise my forehead toward the sky. and I greet the sun with a smile. Thank you.